Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. As always, please like the video as you come in, subscribe to see more, and feel free to comment about anything I chat about. Otherwise, we'll get into it. So what we're talking about today is the UK government's threat or sort of proposed ban of X, the website's formerly known as Twitter. So essentially what's happened is X has an AI called Grok, and if you've been watching my videos before, you've seen me use Grok all the time. Grok is really good to kind of get a quick bit of data from, bit of analysis. You can write jokes with it, just basically anything a chatbot can do. But also it can create images, and most of my thumbnails have been made by Grok. But what's happened recently is Grok's now got this ability to remove images from photos, which, yeah, that's fine. Now, I'll just give you an example of one of these. So here we are on X. So on this image it says remove the guy more likely to steal your bike. Okay, so as you can see, you've got Donald Trump and Obama sat there. So the next image, there's no Obama. Okay, why is that? Well, the joke is because he's black. So black people are more likely to steal your bike, ha ha ha. But that's essentially what we're talking about here. So, but what's happened is some users have been using it to remove people's clothes from images. So you can imagine someone that's got a photo of, I don't know, a family of people, and you say, Grok, remove the clothes from all these people, and would you know it, Grok takes their clothes off. Obviously, Grok doesn't know what's underneath, and I've not actually seen any of these examples, but I'm going to imagine it creates an image with their naked bodies underneath. Funny, yeah, but obviously, if used incorrectly, can be quite, I don't know, illegal and unpleasant. So, what we're going to have a quick listen to is our technology minister, Liz Kendall. Sorry, that's paused at the terrible moment. We're just going to listen to the first 30 seconds of what she's talking about, okay? Just kind of get an idea of why the government is thinking this way.
I think the images being produced are despicable and abhorrent, and sexualizing images of children is one of the worst crimes imaginable. And I think it is insulting to say that you can still access this service if you pay for it. So Ofcom should use the full powers of the law that Parliament has given it. X needs to get a grip and get this material down, and I would remind them that in the Online Safety Act there are backstop powers to block access to services if they refuse to comply with the law for people in the UK, and if Ofcom decides to use those powers, they would have the full backing of the government.
Right, so as you can see there, the sort of idea that she's talking about is, yep, this tool is bad. X needs to stop it, which I can agree with. Obviously, when kids are involved, and obviously, if you were to use it on, I don't know, images of celebrities or politically exposed people, I mean, we know there's AI fakes around all the time. So if you were to get, I don't know, a naked picture of Keir Starmer out, next to an alleyway, you can convince most stupid people, oh, here's Keir Starmer on a night out. Like, you know what I mean? It's not good. I'm sure there are already laws in place to be posting images of people that are clearly, I know, libelous, slanderous, or just, misrepresentation. But that's what's happening. Now, as you heard Liz Kendall say there, the Online Safety Act does give Ofcom powers to, as it says, block services from people. So essentially what they'd be saying is either do as we say, or we're going to stop people in the UK being able to access X. All right. So there's a couple of problems with that. The first problem is good luck, because recently they tried blocking kids from using, adult websites. And as soon as they put that in place, 99% of the kids worked out if you just use a VPN, and most smart devices do have VPNs built in, you can get around it. So well done, government. The second problem with that is that they just want to get rid of X. Now, the reason I'm sort of hammering on this is because X has become basically a bastion of free speech ever since Musk bought it back in October 2022. And this is complete government overreach. If you think I'm being a bit silly, I just want to remind people, a few years ago, or quite a few years ago, Sir David Amess was stabbed in a constituency meeting by a terrorist sympathiser. I think the guy was Syrian or something. But anyway, the guy went into his constituency office, stabbed him, killed him, and then just waited there for the police. Now, what did the government of the time, Boris Johnson's government, do? They blamed online bullying. Right, it wasn't the fact a migrant walked in with a knife and stabbed him. No, they blamed the internet. So since then, that's sort of they use as a catalyst to boost the Online Safety Act. So this is just a clear example. They will use any opportunity to try and give themselves more power or try and get the public on side. Because I'm sorry, you've got to be pretty retarded if you think an MP getting stabbed by a migrant terrorist sympathiser means we've got to tighten up the internet. You are retarded. Pure and simple. So, the reason this government wants to get rid of X, I'm just going to show you why. X has changed since Elon Musk bought it. When Elon Musk bought Twitter, Twitter was a very heavy censored platform. Okay, it was owned by a bunch of liberals, and at the time, so in the lead up to 2022, we were going through COVID. There was obviously a lot of sort of control and censorship being done by mainstream media, online platforms. If you were on YouTube, things like you couldn't say Tommy Robinson's name without basically your channel getting shut down. Like it was just one of those things. If you try to say that the COVID-19 came from a lab in Wuhan, you were kicked off platforms or your account was suspended. All right, that's the world we're living in now. The mainstream media have been spending years and years and years sort of planning very carefully, word for word, the sort of narrative they want to give you. They tell you what news is important to them to tell you, and anyone who breaks from it gets told off. For example, there was a BBC news reporter who was reporting a story, and it said something like along the lines of something like birthing women, like birthing people, and the news reporter looked at the camera and went, "Women." Like, obviously, why are we even doing that? I think that was it. But basically, that's what she said. She got told off, and I think she got put on leave or something nonsense like that, because she was just kind of there showing you, right, this is the words that they use, and then you sit there and think, well, why aren't you using the word woman? And then you just kind of get, basically, it's a psyop, right? So the media spent so much time cultivating essentially what you find out about. ITV, Sky News, Channel 4, BBC, they're all on it, okay? They're all captured by libtards, basically. So then Twitter is a place where you actually get to, say, interact with people. Because if you watch something on the news, let's say Keir Starmer giving a speech, the BBC will just show the clip and then they'll move on. On Twitter or X now, you can see the clip posted, but then you actually see people's reactions to it, and mostly they're calling him a dickhead. So let me just show you just briefly on my X homepage what we're talking about. So today's news over here on the right, I'll move my head over here. There I am. So West Midlands police scrutinise over mosque leader's role in chief selection, and we've got a lovely picture about something different. EU pushes Farage clause in UK veterinary trade talks to withdraw penalties. Document challenges timeline of Shabir Mahmoud's knowledge of the Israeli fan ban. So these are the stories you're not going to hear from the media, right? Let's just open this one up, right? Sorry, being a bit silly with me. Right. So, because what will happen is, if you get like a normal news channel, it's basically just going to tell you, here's the stories, here's what we say, and that's it. So, as you can see here, this is a story that's sort of been around the houses. Long and short of it was, a bunch of Israeli football fans were meant to go watch an Aston Villa match. The police told them, no, you can't come. And they said it's because we've received information that you guys are causing trouble. Obviously, that was bullshit at the time, but no one had anything to say about it. It's now come to light. Not only was that information bullshit, the Dutch have said it's bullshit. there was actually rumblings from the local Muslim community saying that if they did come, they were going to arm themselves and they were going to go cause trouble. So essentially, rather than the narrative being, oh, we've got aggressive Jewish vans, it's actually, oh no, we've got aggressive Muslim locals. Which one of those two stories do you think is going to fit the narrative better? Well, it can't be the Muslim one, because obviously we all love Muslims and they can't do anything wrong, can they? So, no, it's the Jewish one. So again, I know people who sat there and gone, yep, they got the report, it's absolutely fine. Well, now you know that that's not the case, but if we didn't have X to kind of highlight this, how would we have found out? Like, some person would have, I don't know, a comment, maybe a Facebook post. But again, remember, Facebook has been heavily censored too. Now, Mark Zuckerberg's doing his best to kind of sort it out, but no, it's crap. So that's just one thing. Now, if I just go through my timeline here. So we've got Nick Timothy, MP. So this is the MP who's posting, right? How often do you actually get to see what MPs say? They basically would have to fight for a slot on Sky News or BBC or something like that. And also, those media stations are only going to give the slots to the MPs that they kind of like. For example, Labour. So that's what we're looking at. So we've got more here. Chief Constable lied to the government. Right. So I don't know who Tony is, but he's parroting. Now, here's the thing about X. X is going to be full of people who are just saying whatever they like. So at the same time, it might not always be accurate, but X does have something called community notes. If we see one, I'll point it out. But basically, community notes basically says this is incorrect. Here's why, and then it goes right at the bottom of the post. So if what I see here, it's been seen by 50,000 people, which is that much on X world. But let's say that was wrong. At the bottom, there will say community notes. Actually, this, that, the other. Now, the funny thing is, actually, I might be able to do that whilst we're here. I'll keep talking whilst we're looking. But essentially, this X is a great platform to actually see and hear from people, see what they say. I mean, we went past Kirsty also. Winston Marshall, guys remember him from Mumford & Sons? Got kicked out because he read a book. Yep. Cows and marriage is a politically correct way of saying incest. Keir Starmer is pro-incest. There we go. Right. And then you get all these funny things like you got a cow chasing a kid there. So, yeah. Or you get this other clip of this little, what was it? Just Stop Oil little libtard getting absolutely schooled by a woman, right? So, X is an absolute great place. Like, you've got Rob Schneider quoting Layla Cunningham being the Reform mayoral candidate. All right. So, I'm just going to have a quick look of Keir Starmer. Okay. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because Keir Starmer gets community noted quite often. Okay. Because he'll have a tweet or something. And okay, then what's going on here? Right. If I don't find one immediately, actually, let's just find his actual. Right, here we go. Right. Keir Starmer. See, right. Now, here's the thing. Keir Starmer does post. Right, here we go. I won't apologise for lifting almost 500,000 children out of poverty. I won't apologise for putting money back in people's pockets. That's why we are scrapping the 2-child limit. Community notes. The PM misleads by ignoring that the claim is not a fact, but merely a forecast. The IFS assesses that the forecast is optimistic and no silver bullet. The actual impact of removing the limit will depend on the economy and parental behaviour. So you see, it's kind of like immediately you're full of crap. And he doesn't like, and here's another one. We are freezing rail fares for the first time in 30 years and unlocking millions of discounted train tickets in the Great British Rail Sale. We are tackling the cost of living. Community note. The rail fare freeze does not apply to all tickets. Also, TfL fares are expected to rise by 5.8% in 2026. So you can, here's another one, right? So you know what I mean? Like we are, yeah, going quite a lot. So you imagine if it was on the news, BBC read out, this is what Keir Starmer said, reads out the quote, and they don't ever sort of push back and go, well, actually, that's not true because, well, they love him. So they don't give a crap. But essentially, that's why I would recommend to people, you need to get on X, all right? Because X is an unfiltered place. When Elon Musk bought it, he kicked out all the staff that were doing nothing to actually support the product. I think it was like 90% of staff, and it ran better. Now, Twitter is actually a very good example of like government. So Twitter, was a very bloated beast, okay? It was heavily censoring people and it was losing money. Sounds like the Labour Party. Elon Musk comes in, introduces free speech, kicks out all the people that were getting in the way of that, and now Twitter makes money. Do you see sort of how, we could do the same thing to the UK government? Kick out all the useless people. That's it. But you won't ever hear this sort of rhetoric outside of X. So, yeah, go on X, download it. It's actually the number one news app in the UK. Go to the Apple Store or Google Play Store, download it. Go in there and actually interact with people, because you can't sit there and say, oh, it's a silent majority, when a silent majority have now got phones, all right? If you think someone's talking crap, go on Twitter, X, and tell them they're talking crap. I've done it, and it's worked. For example, Tom Hayes is the Bournemouth East MP, okay? I emailed him November before last, okay? And he didn't reply to me for 3 months. He then went on Twitter and he then made a tweet. Because he's not that popular, because he's a new MP, I was the only reply, and I replied to him saying, "Hi Tom, do you fancy replying to my constituent email from November blah blah blah?" Within half an hour, I suddenly got a reply back on my email, right? So this is another way of actually engaging with your MPs. Because remember, a lot of the time people moan that, MPs aren't engaged with people. Well, you've got the tools, do it. Go to the government website, get their email addresses, email them, or go on Twitter, go find them on X and message them on there. You've got the tools, make the most of it. And the reason they don't want X is because they can't control X. X is owned by, I think, the world's richest man. I know that there was a bit of a change around, right? So they can't buy him. They can't. He lives in America and he's one of Trump's mates. So they can't threaten him, right? So what can they do? Well, if you can't win the argument, you just shut down the conversation. That's what all the little left libtard fascists like to do when they go to college campuses. If you try and have a conversation with them, they don't listen. They just scream and shout. This is what the UK government is doing. They know they can't win. They know that every time they say crap on X, and they have to go on X because that's where all the eyeballs are, they're fighting a losing battle, because the tactics of controlling the media, of the media helping them and cultivating the narrative, isn't going to work anymore. So anyone who says boycott X is a retard, to be perfectly blunt with you. They're the people who love looking through the world with rose-tinted glasses. If you watch BBC News all the time, life isn't that bad. I mean, I'll just finish on this quick story. So the first video I was actually going to do on this channel was about a knife fight that happened in Bournemouth. My mate told me not to do it because, to be honest, I was really boring and low energy, but that made sense. But basically, the video was, there was a knife fight in Bournemouth outside of the college, all right? I think 6-7 people got arrested or something. 2 actually got convicted, right, of wounding with intent or having a bladed article. Nowhere in the 5 stories that the Bournemouth Echo wrote said these guys were staying in an asylum hotel. The Daily Mail said it, and then it was also echoed on X. So if you're sat there reading local news, reading mainstream news, you're not getting the full picture. Once you go on X and you actually see what's happening in the world, your mind will just expand. Trust me. And then once you go down there, you take the red pill, you never go back. All right. For example, Iran is basically in the middle of a revolution. Okay, this has been happening since before New Year's. The mainstream media didn't touch it until basically a couple of days ago. Why? Because Iran was a country back in 1979. Islamists, socialists, and communists all got together to overthrow the Shah. What happened after that? The Islamists killed the communists and socialists. I mentioned this in my communism video. Please go check it out. And it's now become an Islamic state where only 20% of the population actually identify with Islam. Okay? They've been killing women for showing their hair, and they are the most brutal regime that there is. The people are now rising up, and the mainstream media cannot cover it Because if the moment they do, people will ask, why is there a revolution in Iran? Oh, it turns out that radical Islam governments are crap. Go on X, find out what's actually going on in the world. And yeah, for those with really bad attention spans, as you can see, all the news is covered in tiny little snippets. You can just scroll through, see what interests you. There we go. List of universities where Muslim Brotherhood linked extremist networks are reported. Would you get that in the news? No. Are you surprised the UAE decided Britain is too Islamist and extremist for Emirati students? Would you get that in the news? No. No Muslim would burn their own mosque even if they can't stand their government. He is very close to realising the truth. That's from Iran, and that's just confirming they're not all Muslim, which they want you to believe. So yeah, guys, sorry, that's a bit of a rant, but to be honest, when I just see people are like, oh, X is bad, it's like, no, X is free speech. If you want to go back living into your little bubble where you get told what to think and believe, then fuck off to a communist regime then. But we don't want one here, thank you. Otherwise, like the video, do subscribe to see more, and guys, have a great rest of your day, and thanks for listening. Bye bye.